Okay, let's get it started here on a Tuesday. Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. By now, you probably know who we are. I'm John Longshore. He is Barry McKnight with the red shirt on today. Wow, I like the red shirt today.
Yep, it's going to be one of my last dressy days, I guess, because we head on the road starting at about 2:00.
Oh, wow.
This afternoon. Yeah, he is John Longshore. I'm Barry McKnight. If you don't know who we are by now, you must be a newbie to the program, and let everybody else know. We want as many people as we can finding out about who we are and what we do, and we're glad you're along with us here as we get ready for basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Basketball tonight, Auburn at Vanderbilt, Alabama at Texas. The Auburn game is the early game at 6:00 on the SEC network. Alabama, Texas is on ESPN.
I saw that.
John,
Following
this
the Tennessee-Kentucky game is the first one, I believe.
Yep.
Both Alabama road favorites tonight.
Yeah, Texas is not great. They're all right, which in the land of the Longhorn is bad. They don't want to be all right. So, yeah, there's special value in these two matchups tonight because for the first time, I think, in anything, these are the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country. When Auburn played Alabama in the comeback game in football, were they 1 versus 2?
I don't think so. I think Alabama actually had a couple of losses.
I think you're right.
Maybe at least one.
So is this the first time that Auburn and Alabama will take to the court against different teams?
Yeah. Oh,
number 1 versus number 2. And if they both win, which is not a given, but if they both win, they will take on each other in Tuscaloosa on Saturday as the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country. I don't think they've ever done that in any sport.
I don't think in any sport. I was thinking, and yeah, you're right. If they both win tonight, you would assume they'll stay in the positions they currently are in. Excuse me. And I believe that would be the first time. Actually, I think I posted a video about that on Saturday night. Somebody texted me that it would be the first time that would ever happen. I don't ever recall it happening. I don't think it's happened in any sport. I know one year in football back in maybe the late 60s, early 70s, Alabama, Auburn, Nebraska, and Oklahoma were all right in there, top 4 teams.
Yeah.
Alabama played Nebraska in a bowl game. Auburn played Oklahoma. They both got beat by the big 8 teams at the time. But I don't think Alabama and Auburn were ranked 1 and 2 when they played in the Iron Bowl before they went to a bowl game.
So let me go Longshore on you. Until somebody tells us we're wrong, we're right.
Yeah.
This is the first time in any sport that Auburn and Alabama will enter into any athletic competition as number 1 and number 2. And
I believe so.
If they both win, 2 things will happen. Number 1, Coleman Coliseum better be an absolute freak show. Better be a madhouse.
Tuscaloosa, is any reports, any tents getting put up? Anybody camping out? What's the? Are they waiting for the Texas game?
I don't know. They need to be camping out. I mean, I don't know how the ticket situation goes up there, but I mean, this would be a camp out kind of game. I don't want this.
Did you check the weather report this week?
I have not. I really don't want this to be in the lexicon, in the Longshore glossary of, did they roll Toomer's corner for that? Or, did Philip say something about this game? I don't want hey, are they camping out?
I mean,
I don't want that to be something we hear about for
Have,
years.
uh, already started. I think that's the path we're heading on. I don't, I don't.
Believe there is no shame in camping out. That means
I will say this, Barry. I do understand ticket prices are extremely high for the game Saturday in Tuscaloosa. Been talking with some people in all different age groups, from older teenagers to young adults that would like to go,
right.
that are sucking up to dad for maybe a little extra coin to make the game, to people our age.
Yeah.
I do understand the tickets are at a premium in terms of cost.
I don't know how all that works. I understand the secondary market and, StubHub and SeatGeek and all that stuff. But who's selling their tickets to that one? Come on, if you've already got tickets, unless you're one of those absolute knotheads who buy extra tickets to keep them away from the average people's hands and drive the price up so you can sell them in bulk on the secondary market. Who's selling? Absolutely. Who are you selling your tickets to?
If I had some tickets and somebody wanted to pay $500-$600 a ticket for them, I'd sell them in a New York minute. I'll sit at home and watch it. I don't have to be there. If I'm going to make an extra $2,500, $3,000, yeah, heck yeah. The way I think about it is, I got $3,000 in my pocket. When the game's over, I'm where I want to be anyway. And if the team you root for loses, you go, wait a minute, I can't. I passed up $3,000 for this. It's kind of like camping out for 4 days. I camped out for 4 days for this. No. So there's a lot of people out there.
A game? We lost our first game in the league. I'm so disappointed. Oh, yeah. That kind of stuff drives me crazy, and he knows it drives me crazy. Wait a minute. I spent all this time and they didn't give me what I deserve and expect, which is a W. This entire thing has been a colossal waste of time. Here's what'll happen, though. If you got people like you who will sell out for the almighty dollar, John's like, yeah.
Okay, continue.
What's going to happen in Coleman Coliseum on Saturday is what happened back in December at Cameron Indoor Stadium when Auburn lost the game at Duke.
Yeah.
But there was about 33, 35, 40% of the people, let's say 33. A third of the people in there were Auburn fans. And the next, Monday, Tuesday, the next business day, the Duke athletic director says, hey, Blue Devil Club members.
Yeah.
You got to remember on the back of your ticket, it says, don't sell it to the visiting team. Let's make sure that our home atmosphere stays in our favor. I mean, I guarantee you put that on the ticket market, it's going to look like a 1975 Iron Bowl. Half crimson, half orange and blue.
That's just that's the chance you take. I mean, there again, it's an open market, secondary markets out there. These universities use secondary markets, Ticketmaster, StubHub, whatever it may be.
You've got your official secondary market of the Crimson Tide.
I'm sure they're getting a cut out of it as well. And they can sit there and tell you all day, and they can put it on the back of the ticket. But, Joe Q Public, and somebody comes up and says, hey, man, I'll buy that ticket from you for $500, $1,000. Okay. Well, the athletic director told you not to on the back of the ticket. So what? He ain't paying my bills every month, So, I mean, these people that want to go and crash the opposing team stadium and make payments on those ticket purchases over a 6-month period, knock yourself out. That's just not me. I mean, this is from a guy, Barry, that's going to walk into the stadium as the official is throwing the ball up for the opening tip. I'm not camping out. I'm not getting there early. I want to get to my area right as the game starts. I don't like any of the pregame fluff. And, if I don't make it, then, hey, I'll watch it on my 65-inch and listen to some of these
Andy
great
Burcham and all of them. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, can't beat it.
He is not that guy. You're not going to see him out there, paying for a pizza while he's sitting outside of his little pup tent
Whoa.
outside Coleman Coliseum. You're just not. I feel confident in saying so.
True. Yeah.
He's not that guy. But you know what? Also, he is not that guy that's going to be waltzing in 3 minutes before tip-off. He's missed the anthem. He's missed the prayer. He's walking down there, got his Bud Light, maybe a pretzel or something like that. Get hurt in there. Come on, guys, let's go, let's go, let's go. He gets down there, finds good seats over there at Coleman Coliseum. Otherwise, he ain't coming. Good seats at Coleman Coliseum. He gets down there, looks over. Okay, here's our seats. And he looks over to his left. 6 Aubs, orange and blue, wearing the hat, got the shaker. And John's like,
you missed one important key element. The parking pass.
Parking pass.
Oh, gotta have the parking pass.
He ain't parking. His days of parking at 10 Horse over. Done many years ago.
You know, I feel pretty confident that if I was going to a game at Coleman, there would not be any Auburn people sitting around me.
If you've got people like you that are selling their tickets on the secondary market, there could be.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact, I'd say the chances are pretty good.
I don't think so. But I think in the general seating area, that might be the case. But, you know, that's a chance. And, you know, I've talked about this, Barry. I mean, even in Bryant-Denny at football games, I don't care if it's the opposing team or not. I mean, the last time I sat at a game at Bryant-Denny, I'll never forget it. Couple of seasons ago, some people invited me, took the son. We went up there. We stood up the entire game. Nobody sat down. And the guy in front of me was probably going about 340, 345. Pretty wide fella. Had a hard time looking around him. I mean, all night. Didn't sit down. And I'm just thinking, people do this? They pay money. They drive up here. They park. They tailgate. Whatever you do. And you stand up the whole game? I thought, I sound like an old crotchety fuddy-duddy.
No, you sound like Winthorpe from Trading Places. You know, you sound like Dan Aykroyd, and they smell.
Well, they did. But I'm thinking, is that enjoyable? Is that how you want to watch a game? There again, I might be just an old fart. I'm thinking, this just didn't me anymore.
There's a lot of people on the other side of your camera right there that are going, yeah, it's great. You kidding me?
Okay.
To watch the Tigers play, to watch the Crimson Tide, huh?
And Barry, I've been kind of, I don't want to say brainwashed, but you know, there was a long period of time in my football career of viewing and covering football that I was in the press box, and you got to sit down, you got to be quiet, which is fine. I really enjoyed it. So I didn't get that standing up all the time. People moving in front. Excuse me, pardon me. Hey, man, didn't you just go get something? I mean, geez. So that part of the game is a distraction. I don't find it overly entertaining or enjoyable. I like watching the game, but I think that's what athletic directors are dealing with. And you're seeing more of these stadiums. It's all about premium seating. And it's happening in Auburn. It's happening in Tuscaloosa. Saw a great piece about how they've reconfigured the Superdome before the Super Bowl and the premium seating options. That's the future. It's not how many people you can get in the stadium. It's how many premium seating sections you can have for your fans and your customers. And I think with the evolution of the flat screen television and HD pictures and the sound quality, they're fighting that too. Don't get me wrong. If you want to invite me, I'm all in. But if you're in the zone or you got a box, I'm even more in. Same thing with Coleman Coliseum. I can't tell you the last time I've sat in the stands. It just, it's just not me.
As a member of the media, a longstanding member of the media, have you ever sat in those gray media seats that you consistently and constantly rail about? Have you ever gotten a media pass to go to Coleman Coliseum and dutifully hiked up there to your little spray-painted plywood seats up there in the corner?
I have, but I got to tell you, it's probably been 20 25 years ago. You know, I went down that road a couple of times. I said, this is terrible. And that just tells you how long that section has been there. They still have it up. But nah. Mm-mm. And I don't, there again, I don't go to a lot of games. When I was in school, it was different. But I don't go to a lot of games because there again, it's a commitment. I mean, and I've said it many times. I said, how many people, there might be more now, but I used to make the statement years ago when we were on radio, when we were together, I don't believe there's 100 people in the city limits of Montgomery that go to 8 or more Alabama basketball games in a season. I never had anybody, oh, you're crazy. I know people that do it all the time. Never heard anybody say that. There again, that's just an observation of mine, an opinion. I know a lot of people around here that do go a lot.
Yep.
I don't know if they go to more than 8, but I go to 2 or 3. And when I go, I got some people that have got some pretty good seats, and they let me sit in them. And, I take advantage of it. I appreciate it. Thank them, tremendously for it.
Have you ever in your life, I love these, we get into these. Have you ever set foot in or set a rear end in a seat above the concourse in that second level at Coleman Coliseum, in the tall seats up there? Ever, even like on a dare or something?
When the portals that come from the lobby into the stadium,
yes,
you can either come out of the portal and go up or down. I've never been up. I've never sat up there, ever.
Not even, middle of the night, a little something to drink.
I don't think I have. No, never told me. I've sat in the upper deck at Brian. I've sat in the upper deck at Brian Denny.
When we come back, we're going to gauge, Auburn's number 1, Alabama's number 2. They both play on the road in the league tonight, trap games. And then Auburn and Alabama will play each other on Saturday, 3 o'clock, ESPN, fabled Coleman Coliseum.
It'll be sold out.
It'll be sold out.
It'll be standing room only.
But, there's going to be a lot of Auburn people there if John is right and people are just selling their tickets on the open market. Anybody surprised that Auburn is still number 1? We'll talk about that
let's do it
in just a moment.
Let's get into that. Of course, when we return, Barry, later this hour, our man Bryan Matthews, auburnsports.com, at the bottom of this hour. At the top of the next hour, Travis Reier on YouTube, Talking Tide. Your chats, your emails. We got a lot going on today and a big basketball week ahead.
Yep, it's underway. It's the Tuesday show. He's John Longshore. I'm Barry McKnight. In association with Yellowhammer News, it's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Book tee time sooner. Save on every round. That's what you get with the 2025 RTJ Trail Card. Destination golf is closer than you might think. Buy a 2025 Trail Card and save every time you play. Plus, you will be automatically entered into the Trails Loyalty Program. Enjoy 10-day advance reservation privileges at each location. 11-day advanced internet tee times on rtjgolf.com and the RTJ app. Enjoy the benefits of a 2025 Trail Card. It makes for a great stocking stuffer, and you save on every round you play in 2025 on the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail.
Heads or tails, kick or receive, with the wind or against the wind. Buy your friend a Bud Light. Buy a stranger a Bud Light. Go to your team's bar. Go to the opposing team's bar. Buy a round during the next truck commercial. Buy a round during the next Talking Duck commercial. If you're truly up for whatever this weekend, grab the perfect beer for whatever happens. Crisp, refreshing Bud Light. Make 2 plans and let the NFL coin toss make the call. Enjoy responsibly. Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Local banking expertise, the newest innovations and technology, personal attention, genuine hospitality. It's all just part of the Riverbank and Trust difference. They invite you to experience it for yourself. Welcome to banking above and beyond at River Bank and Trust. Locations throughout the River region, locations throughout the state of Alabama. River Bank and Trust. Already back at it, about 20 minutes past the hour here on a Tuesday. Thank you, Dennis. Dennis Mitchell says, I'm not too old.
No,
I don't feel old, Dennis.
Yeah. He says you're not old. He didn't say you're not too old. There's some things that you are too old for. Some things that we're both too old for. Some things we're not old enough yet.
You're true.
It's been since summer camp at Camp Valley High in Port St. Joe and in St. Joseph's Bay in Florida that I've ever held a shuffleboard stick. I was 12.
Ooh.
Not too old for that. On the bus ride back from Ohio on Saturday and Sunday, we watched the second one, not Meet the Parents, but Meet the Fockers.
Yeah.
With Dustin Hoffman, Barbara Streisand, Robert De Niro. We ain't like that now. Come on. I mean, we are way hipper than those people are. But I'm still that guy. I don't ever get a chance because I'm so busy. But if I have the chance, yeah, I'm going to a ball game. I mean, I'm sitting, with the regular people. I'm parking out there where I can find a parking place. I'm driving myself. Now John would have you believe that if you want me to watch a game live, you got to drive me there.
Yep.
Preferably some Bud Light, maybe in the car or something. Not for the driver.
No,
never for the driver. Good parking spot, parking pass. You got to get up there.
Yeah.
If it's more than say 100 yards away, and it better be good seats. And by good seats, I mean, not amongst the hoi polloi. I mean, you got to be. If there's mahogany paneling involved, that's what John's talking about.
Well, I would prefer for someone to drive me if possible.
Yeah.
But I've been known to drive.
Back in the day when he was younger, cut off 22 jersey, Dolphin shorts.
Oh.
Never flip-flops, but maybe boat shoes, maybe sneakers, something like that. No socks, never socks. Some sunscreen and a couple bucks for a Bud Light at the end of the first half. And he's good.
I've told the story before, Barry, that when I was young and playing YMCA football, they just throw me in the car and we'd head to Tuscaloosa with my football uniform on. We wouldn't have time to go home and change. When you're 10, 11, 12 years old, you don't care anyway. So what if I smell?
John was proud of it. He wanted to tool around there. In John's mind, this is what he was thinking. What was the team? Was it Hall Brothers Dairy?
Was either Hall Brothers or Gafers. Those are the two
let's
teams
just say
I played for.
John just got done, probably ran the Derrick Henry offense where he just turned and handed it off to somebody. He was 1 for 2 passing for Hall Brothers Dairy. Mom and dad say, hop in the car, let's go. Ditches the pads, throws them in the trunk. John gets out there, and he's out there, Bryant-Denny Stadium, tooling around. All the other little kids, they're out there in their jersey and their football pants and their cleats, clackety, 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 clack down there. This is what John was thinking at that time. Bears down there. He's chewing on the referees. Place is going crazy. 59,000 crazy fans. All of a sudden, Musso gets hurt, turns an ankle. Oh, the backup running back got in trouble, missed practice or class or something like that. Bear sitting on the sidelines, arms on his hips. What am I going to do for a running back? Hey, who's that kid?
Yeah. Don't think a 12-year-old dream
that. See that number 8 up there? Up there. No, he's not on the second deck. I don't think. No, up there running around over there in the concourse, getting everybody's nerves. Get him down there. See if he'll play running back. Mal runs up there. Hey, son, what's your name? John, sir. Hey, you want to play running back? Oh, yes, sir. Gets down there, suits up, gets him a helmet. Man, he's out there. Yeah, he's ready if the Bear called him up.
I thought the only time they pulled people out of the stands was at Auburn. Because
that was Otis Mounds many years ago. Otis is now a collegiate football coach. I mean, he'd been at ULM or something.
Amazing the things I can remember. And then mainly about Auburn. Man, didn't they pull somebody out of the stands in one game?
Carl Stevens. Otis was on the team at that time. Otis, he was like a walk-on, or he had redshirted or something like that. And they ran out of people, and he's sitting up in the stands. Carl Stevens, would Otis Mounds please report to the Auburn locker room?
No, Otis, talking about you, man. Mounds. You got to go to the locker room. That's you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I want to make something clear.
Otis puts down his Bud Light. Yeah. He heads down there, and all of a sudden,
boom, he's in the game.
Yeah, he's trying to cover Peerless Price or somebody. I will
say this. Unless you're on the board of trustees or really some yuckity-yuck bigwig up there, you're not going to be parking 100 yards from Bryant-Denny. So I have to come to the realization that I might have to walk a little bit, but it's just the fact of having the parking place, knowing where you're going to park. I ain't going up there looking around, negotiating with a guy that's waving a flag. Ain't going to happen. And some of these prices to park nowadays, I mean, it used to be like $10. Now it's like 40 or 50. And you could be 2 miles from the stadium. I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. So
plus,
the walk is a little further, but it's nice. I mean, you get to walk through campus and, go by the house and frat it up with some of the young guys and whatnot. But that is key to me these days. I'm not fighting looking for a parking space.
John's riding, people are walking. They're looking over there into that car that's driving past them. John's up there going,
sucker.
Yeah, that's it. I've done this before. When I lived in Auburn and covered Auburn, I did this maybe twice, where the house was about 3/4 of a mile behind the Village Mall. I don't know what they call it now. And so I would drive to the Village Mall and catch a shuttle. With the fans, and the shuttle would let us out right in front of Jordan-Hare Stadium. I had my backpack and all my stuff to cover the game and all that. I just hopped out, and there we go. I thought, this is great. John wouldn't do that on two bets. Not at all. And because you're standing up there in that little shuttle, and you're holding on to the thing, and you got
well, Barry, I can tell you the last time
with his finger up his nose, and
I can tell you the last time I rode a shuttle, and there's a difference in that, in riding a shuttle. This happened about 13 months ago.
What?
If my math
I would have bet
right.
13 years.
I drove a shuttle. It was a bus from Hollywood to Pasadena. And the reason I did it was because Total Sports Travel had somebody pick me up at my hotel and drive me to the Rose Bowl. And they said, we will be right here when the game is over, which they were. And they drove me back to Hollywood. I thought, now this is kind of the way I like to do it.
This ain't no shuttle no, like one of those diesel shuttles that, everybody has to lean forward to get up that hill.
No, exactly. And I knew most of the people that were on this bus anyway, so that made it nice. Sometimes you get on those buses at University Mall or at the law school in T-Town, and you're going, wow. But the reason I bring up Total Sports Travel, because that's a great way to travel. And there again, it was great. I just showed up, picked me up, good to go. Same thing happens when you book your trips with Total Sports Travel. Now, you're not going to need a shuttle bus in Nashville in about a month, but if you want to go to the SEC men's basketball tournament, Total Sports Travel is the way to go, because they've got your hotel accommodations at the Omni Nashville. Barry and I stayed there a couple of years ago for SEC football media days. It's fabulous. It's 1 block away from Bridgestone Arena, where they'll hold the NCAA, the SEC men's basketball tournament. So you can walk from the hotel to the arena to all the great restaurants and bars and all the nightlife there in Nashville. Go ahead and check it out, totalsportstravel.com. That's totalsportstravel.com. Now, Barry, I've been mentioning that they have game ticket booklets available, sold out. They have sold out of their game ticket booklets. So you might have to find, if you don't have tickets, you're going to have to look elsewhere because they've sold all those out, but they still do have rooms available, room packages available. And I got to think if you needed to find some tickets, they could find a way to help you out with that as well. Those folks at Total Sports Travel are on top of it.
They're connected.
Go to totalsportstravel.com right now and book your SEC basketball tournament package, or you can call them up 877-371-0144, 877-371-0144, and be in Nashville for the SEC men's basketball tournament coming up next month with Total Sports Travel.
Coming up in just a moment, Bryan Matthews, auburnsports.com. It's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Why Hands? At Hands Heating and Air, you get this area's highest ranked service provider with 24-hour repair service, no overtime charges, and their same-day service guarantee. Plus, instead of other companies' 30-day repair warranty, Hands gives you a 3-year repair warranty. Hands Heating and Air is here for you 24/7, 365. And service is not just something they do, it's their way of operating, for you in mind. All of Hands employees are trained to adhere to this standard. They work hard to ensure that this standard is maintained, and they are constantly looking for new ways to better serve you. Call Hands Heating and Air today at 508-5382. That's 508-5382, or find them on the web at 834hands.com.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Phoenix Physical Therapy is ready to help patients recover, recharge, and rise. They develop a customized therapy plan for each patient to get them back to enjoying their favorite activities. Their experienced team is committed to providing exceptional care in a professional environment. Whether you're looking to prevent or treat an injury, recover from a recent illness, or recuperate from surgery, schedule an appointment with our clinic and take advantage of our physical therapy, athletic training, workers' comp, and employer solutions service. Experience elevated physical therapy today. Call Phoenix Physical Therapy at 239-9316. That's 239-9316.
Already back at it, about 27 minutes to the top of the hour here on Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Our man Bryan Matthews, auburnsports.com, joining us on our City of Montgomery guest hotline as he does each and every Tuesday. Hey, Bryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Good morning. Great to see y'all.
Great to see you as well. Give us an appraisal. Was there anything instructional about Auburn losing at home on Saturday by 9 to Florida? Anything you can do that you can say, well, we can't do that anymore, or will we need to try something else? Was it just, Florida's a very good basketball team that was shooting very well?
I think that's a big part of it. Florida is a good team. I think they match up really well with Auburn because they got the big dudes inside who can body up Janai and defend him really well, and of course be good on the offensive end too. And they've got great guards. And Florida is a team that's sort of built for the postseason. I think Auburn can be that team too. But the SEC is really good. Auburn lost to a top 5 team at home. That's it happens sometimes. And they had won 14 straight, so I think they were due for a letdown. So I just think it's part of it. I didn't think Auburn was going to run the table in not this conference, not the best the SEC's ever been. So here we are coming up on the biggest matchup in SEC basketball history.
Bryan, I'm a big believer of a loss can help you. And particularly in college basketball, team is very, very difficult to go undefeated all year and win it. I think you're going to have some bumps in the road. And I think those bumps are learning opportunities, resets, if you will. I think the coaching staff uses it at okay, guys, maybe we're not as good as we thought we were, or maybe we didn't play as hard as we needed to against a really good team. I hope you've learned from this, because there are going to be a lot more difficult games down the road, and you need to remember how you felt or what you did or did not do in this game so it doesn't happen again.
That's right. Coaches, when you won 14 straight or whatever, that message may not land as much as it does after you lose a game, especially at home. So I do 100% agree with that. I think that's Bruce Pearl's style in a lot of ways. I think he sees, certain areas of this team that need improvement, and he sees a loss like this an opportunity to push those buttons. And you look at this week. I mean, you got Vanderbilt tonight. This is the trappiest of trap games of all time, right? The same with Texas for Alabama, right? You're talking about the biggest game in state history. I saw on Twitter this morning that it's the first ever 1 versus 2 matchup in the SEC. I mean, this game just keeps blowing up and getting bigger and bigger, and nobody's really talking about Auburn at Vandy, where Vandy's beaten Kentucky, Tennessee already, and Alabama at Texas. And Texas is one of the best young teams in the country, or at least got one of the best young players in the country on the team.
Vanderbilt's only lost once at home all season long.
Yep.
It is. I love that. The trappiest of trap games. Bryan, are you surprised that despite the loss, Auburn remains number one?
A little bit. On the other hand, they definitely have the best resume in the country by far, with all their quad one wins. So I think they're getting respect from voters in that respect. And then, you had Duke lose too, which was number 2 coming in. So that probably played a part. I kind of think it's pretty cool that the coaches poll had it Alabama Auburn, and then the AP had Auburn Alabama. So it's really a 1 versus 1 matchup in some respects. So that makes it even more exciting to me.
We're not going to be able to ask you this until after the game on Saturday. So it's not like I'm looking ahead or anything. Can you remember any time in any sport where Auburn and Alabama were number 1 and number 2?
Nope.
That hadn't happened.
No,
I'm thinking,
think
softball, or even the comeback game back in 2010. Alabama had lost a couple. John tells me.
Yep.
This is historic stuff.
We were talking about that earlier, Bryan, and I was so young, but I've read about it. I think it was the maybe early 70s or so. Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma, Nebraska were the top 4 teams. Alabama played Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. Auburn played Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl, I want to say. And maybe that's the highest rank Auburn and Alabama had been leading into an Iron Bowl game. And I would think of basketball or any other sport. I think they were ranked maybe 3 and 4 going into that game in football. I can't remember a time that even in football, both teams were ranked that high.
I can't either. I mean, both teams have been ranked really high. Of course, Alabama much more, but a lot of times it's been, especially before Saban arrived, it's been kind of a roller coaster. Auburn would be up, Alabama would be a little down, and quite the opposite when Alabama's been up. It's kind of rare when you have both teams meeting and they're both top 10 or top 5 teams, although it certainly happened in my lifetime. But yeah, this is historical. It's the biggest game in the basketball game in the history of the state of Alabama. You'd have to go back and compare it to NCAA regional championships at the BJCC in the 80s and 70s, so this is crazy. But again, Auburn's got Vanderbilt tonight, so it's just you just wonder how that's gonna go. Are they gonna come out on fire because they're coming off a loss, or are they going to be distracted a little bit because they got such a big game coming up Saturday? This is a big game, I think, for both coaching staffs tonight.
Bryan, Jedi Broom isn't 100% still, right?
Yeah, he wants to play through it. I don't know if there's a number on it. Pearl said that he's having trouble pushing off of it, so I think that affects him around the rim. You saw him miss some close shots against Florida, which I think helped them, spread out that lead a little bit. But he wants to play. Pearl said the trainers have told him there's not a high risk of re-injuring it by him playing. So, he wants to get out there and compete. He knows these are big games for his team and his school. Chad Baker-Mazar is also playing with an injury or two right now. I think he's limited to was it 11 minutes or 19 minutes? I think it was 19 minutes against Florida. So I think that affected him a little bit too. But they're both going to be ready to go tonight and should be ready to go Saturday.
Yeah, it's interesting, Brian, and I'm with you. I mean, I think I said it this weekend. Everybody's already looking ahead to Saturday. They were, thinking the 1 and 2 matchup. That's what we've got on Saturday. I mean, game day's eating that up. They can be 1 versus 2 and hype that up all week and all Saturday. But you got to take care of business before that happens. I mean, you don't want to both these teams don't want to limp in, so to speak. They don't want to come in with a loss. And Auburn's an 8.5-point favorite tonight on the road. Bama just a 2.5-point favorite on the road against Texas. So, yeah, there's certainly opportunities here for the home teams to win tonight. And I know Coach Pearl and Coach Oates certainly don't want that with what's on the horizon.
Yeah, actually, I thought those numbers would be opposite, to be honest with you, just because Vanderbilt's had some success at home. But you do. You want to get it done tonight. I think they're back-to-back games. Auburn's at 6. I believe Bama's at 8. So,
yes,
everybody will be watching those 2 games. Of course, it's just going to be. It's wild that you think about most of our time covering both teams, how it's all been football. I can remember so many times we talked about there's 3 seasons in the state of Alabama. There's football season, recruiting, and spring football, right? And here we are talking about the number 1 and number 2 teams meeting, and it's definitely not spring football season. This is basketball season. Yeah.
A couple of other things here. Bryan Matthews, auburnsports.com. Last Wednesday was National Signing Day. You talk about something that's absolutely lost every bit of luster. Was there any news for Auburn? The kid from Auburn High School, I guess. But what was the upshot from that? And why is it so devalued, National Signing?
Well, I think a couple reasons. But that was the only news. Omar Mabson from Auburn High School, the running back, did sign. Will be here in late May or early June. Got to graduate from Auburn High School first. But a terrific young man. It's going to be a good player, I feel like, for Auburn. A nice pickup there. That's the only player they recruited, as far as I know, in the late period. And this is just the trend of college football. Once you got the early signing period, that became basically signing day. 90+% of the kids sign during the early period, especially with Power 4 schools. And, you look at it, and of the signing class now, I think Auburn signed 26, and 21 of those have already enrolled freshmen. So most of those kids are not just signing early, but they're enrolling early. Auburn has a total of 35 newcomers that'll go through spring practice starting March 25th. And that's, just 5 years ago, that would be insane. But this is where we are now. Everything's getting moved forward, right? The kids are starting earlier and they're getting out quicker, whether it's through the portal or whether it's, headed to the NFL.
Do you miss those days? Do you miss, everybody losing sleep and your phone absolutely ringing off the hook from people? Hey, Brian, what are you hearing about this guy heading into the first Wednesday in February? I can imagine those days were nuts for you.
I do in a lot of ways. I miss, 20 years ago without social media, right? When we'd be over at the complex in the wee hours and the fax machine, you'd hear it crank up and go, here we go. Who's going to be next? And somebody come out and tell, we got so-and-so. And, we put it out there on the message boards or whatever. Those were the salad days of covering recruiting.
You spell it how do you spell Markeith? Markeith. Okay. All right, I got it. Okay, yeah.
And Brian, to some extent, I think how we're doing it now in December's kind of lost some steam too. I mean, most people already know where everybody's going. I mean, there's not a lot of surprises on signing day in December, so you know where everybody's going. It just doesn't have the excitement that it wants. And I don't know if I want to call it excitement because, I remember those days and we'd be on the air all day because radio was the only way you could find out what was going on. There was no internet, none of that type of stuff. Unless you got on a phone or listened to a radio show, that's how you were going to find out what was going on in recruiting. And I remember, 25, 30 years ago, we'd just be on all day, have an all day show.
That was fun. That was fun. And, a lot of times you didn't know a whole lot about these kids. So you'd be finding out the stuff as they signed or right before they signed. So you'd be talking about them more. Now we know everything about them. Their film's out by the time they're a sophomore or freshman in high school, and they're ranked earlier now. So everything is just processed a lot earlier. And these kids, a lot of them have already agreed to a deal. So, like you said, there's a lot less drama
Yeah.
once we get to signing day. That is, I mean, there's some drama, of course. Nothing's written in stone, but yes, definitely a lot less.
Final question, Brian. On Friday, Auburn baseball opens up at home against Holy Cross. What's the outlook there? Do fans have reason to be excited about this team?
Yeah, they've gotten a lot better. They've overturned over 50% of the roster, brought in a bunch of really talented pitchers, got an LSU and Florida transfer that you'll probably see in the starting rotation this weekend. Got some really talented freshmen that you'll see on the mound over the next 5 days or 6 days, 5 games in 6 days starting Friday. And I think this is one of the better lineups they've had. It's got quality top to bottom, and it's got some depth there. You got 3 or 4 guys that may not start on Friday that could be a big part of the lineup at some point this season. So should be improved. The SEC is a lot like the SEC in basketball now. In baseball, it is loaded from top to bottom. So it's going to be a scrap and a battle to fill out, however many places the SEC is going to get in the college world in the NCAA tournament. But Auburn will certainly be back in contention for that.
Now, I learned something yesterday that I did not know. That Paula Abdul had multiple hit singles. I did not know that.
Yeah, and had 4 of them from her debut album, which at the time was a record, which is pretty cool if you think about it. And it's one of those artists that I remember back when I was in college, it coming out, little pop stuff. It's not like the music I was into, but I still remember it.
I remember the video she did that had the cartoon character cat in
Oh,
it.
yeah. Opposites Attract.
Opposites Attract. That won her a Grammy Award, that video. That was her only Grammy win.
Didn't she end up on The Voice or something?
Oh, yeah, she was a judge.
Yeah, okay.
American Idol and several other shows, been a judge of, been a part of like 100 films and TV shows.
Wow.
Started as a cheerleader for the LA Lakers.
I knew that.
And then was discovered there, and then did choreography for Janet Jackson, and then eventually saved up her money and did a tape for a record company, and that's how she got her break.
Maybe she can be halftime entertainment at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, whoa, I did take that in the New York Minute. Yeah. So you not only you're learning about Auburn athletics, you get a little musical journey on Mondays as well. Today or yesterday it was Paula Abdul. And who is that sponsored by, Brian?
Delicious Uncle Keith's Red Sauce. We're running a February special. BMAT 25 will get you 25% off your online order. Give it a try. And of course, if you live in the state, you can get it at Publix, Piggly Wiggly's, and Renfro's. Delicious salsa, great, fresh taste. Give it a try.
There you go. Brian, as always, we appreciate it, man. Thanks a bunch.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Y'all take care.
Hey, always. We appreciate that. Bryan Matthews, AuburnSports.com, joining us each and every week on our City of Montgomery guest hotline. Always appreciate his input. Always a lot of good stuff there from Bryan Matthews.
Paula Abdul. I remember Opposites Attract.
Straight Up.
Oh, that's it. That's my Paula Abdul lexicography. 12 before the hour. That means 12 minutes away from Travis Reier on YouTube. Lots to get with him about.
Very some interesting news about this game on Saturday in Tuscaloosa. We were talking about ticket prices. We're talking about maybe how many Auburn fans will be there. Spoke with a gentleman that was at a function in Tuscaloosa and informed me of some interesting things about this game on Saturday. One in particular, I'll share it when we return.
How about that? And John Dent on our chat line, thank you so much. Appreciate that. John says, your 22 cutoff jersey, Barry, had to be Emmitt Smith, right?
Oh, Emmitt Smith, sure.
And by the time Emmitt Smith played at Florida, I had been graduated from college for 4 years. So, no, mine was more like David Bowden and Nat Moore. No, that's a lot earlier than that. Appreciate it. I'm a little older than that.
That was a game I actually sat in the stands at Legion Field and saw Emmitt Smith run all over Alabama.
For 229 as a freshman.
Woo!
Yeah.
They could not stop that guy for anything. John from Wetumpka says he was at the Otis Mounds game.
Yeah, he's told me that before. Yeah. Otis Mounds, number one, it's kind of a memorable name. It's a candy bar, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
But That is a true statement.
And
True statement.
Barry, leave it to Dennis. I wasn't expecting this one today. I got to put my thinking cap on. John and Barry, what's the latest on NFL expansion down the road? Is there any NFL expansion?
There may be NFL movement,
okay,
but not expansion. We'll get back in just a moment. In association with Yellowhammer News, it's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Hey, folks, let's start 2025 off on the right foot at Stivers Ford in Montgomery, where you can get a 2024 Ford Bronco up to $10,000 off MSRP as low as $34,990. What about the popular Ford Escape? Well, you can get one as low as $24,990 and 1.9% APR for 66 months. You know, the Ford Explorer is what started the SUV craze back in the early 80s, and it's still going strong today. You can save up to $8,000 off MSRP as low as $33,990 and 1.9% APR for 66 months. But I know what you're asking me. John, what about the popular F-150, America's best-selling pickup for over 50 years in a row? Well, you can get a 2024 F-150 Crew Cab at 1.9% APR for 60 months or up to $15,000 off MSRP, plus no payments for 90 days. And they've got plenty to choose from. I've never seen as many cars and trucks on the ground at Stivers as they've got there today. Go by and see for yourself. 4000 Eastern Boulevard, Stivers Ford in Montgomery, where Price sells cars and trucks.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Don't miss your chance to win big at Victoryland Casino. Play the latest, hottest, most exciting games around with fun bonuses and big jackpots. Don't miss out on your free play. Stop by Player Rewards today and check out this month's exciting free play promotions. Come see why our players keep coming back. You'll have more fun at Victoryland Casino, where you can be a winner too. Victoryland Casino, located off I-85 exit 22, Shorter, Alabama. Must be 21 or older.
Okay, a couple of minutes to the top of the hour here on a Tuesday, Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. A viewer of the program, Barry, he just happens to be one of the select few on the River Region Straw VIP text hotline. If you want to be a part of that, well, we'll let you know.
You're out of luck. Yeah.
You're out of luck.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We'll
Don't
let you
call
know.
John. He'll call you.
That's right. This person was at a function in Tuscaloosa yesterday. I'll let you guess what kind of function this might have been. I don't want
Red
to reveal
Elephant
it.
Club. Yeah. Do we have the I've got the Tusca sound effect somewhere.
Said that Greg Byrne
Yeah.
told the group in his 8 years as the athletic director at the University of Alabama that the game Saturday is the hottest ticket he has seen in any sport. How about that? The game of the century between LSU. Maybe Byrne wasn't there then. Maybe that was a little
The
bit.
return to Tuscaloosa the year after the women's basketball team got a fight in Foster Auditorium.
Now, that would have been a hot ticket.
How about
That would have been a hot ticket. But yeah, I mean, I'm hearing, and I don't follow the secondary market, but I've heard people tell me, and my daughter told me yesterday, $400 or $500. I've heard other people say, depending on where you to where you are, closer to four figures. And I'm thinking, really? Really? Is this a
Here's what I don't
Final
want.
Four game?
Here's what I don't want. I mean, I'd like to see a ton of Auburn fans there. And if those tickets are on the secondary market, I don't care how much they cost, Auburn fans are going to be there. This is really for both teams, but for both schools, but mainly for Alabama. This is a roll call. Anybody who is anybody is going to be at that game. This is what I don't want, though.
I don't know about that.
Certainly I was at that game, but I didn't think you liked basketball. Well, I was at this one. That's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see rank and file Alabama guy who scrapes together some money to take his wife and his kids to a ball game and, can't really afford it, but kind of just grits his teeth and does it because they enjoy the time together. The little kid loves basketball. You scrimp and save. You're not going to Disney this year. You're going to 3 Alabama basketball games. And here's the biggest one. Oh, boy, Dad, that sure was great to see us beat Cup in State. Sure would like to see that Auburn game. And they get aced out by some fat cat who's got the mahogany-lined skybox at Bryant-Denny, who ain't been to a basketball game since David Hobbs. And now all of a sudden, well, I believe I'll partake in this one. And he's acing out average fans.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a ton of people in the arena wearing crimson that you've never seen there before. But I think you will.
I don't know if that's going to be the case, but little Timmy, that's the real world. That's what I would be telling him. Son, you're going to have to work your tail off if you want to be one of those guys sitting there and just breezing in anytime you want to. That's the real world. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, they're not, we want to make sure every family can come and bring little Timmy to the game. Athletic directors aren't thinking that way. We need to make sure the fat cats are happy. We got to make sure we're getting tickets in their hands. If they only show up once or twice a year for the big games, so be it, because we're going back to them to get them to contribute to our NIL or to construct a new arena or whatever it's going to be. Timmy's daddy's not going to do that. And that's just the harsh reality of it.
You're going to have people up there second half. They're already, let's say halfway through the second half, they're already in the high 70s. I mean, those two back and forth. Janai Broom is dealing. Mark Sears it and turning it over. Places, number one versus number two. This is my fantasy. Okay, let me go through it. I can go as far as I want. And the place is absolutely packed. National television audience, and you look down there at courtside, and you got Biff and Trey are sitting down there. Well, how is your portfolio? How have you done it? Oh, I got into technology stocks early. Yeah. I'm telling you, but ground floor. It was, instead of, let's go, Grant, come on, Aiden, I don't.
Now, and I'll
is that?
And there again, that's where college athletics is headed. I mean, I mentioned the premium seating. They're not expanding these football stadiums so Joe Q Public can go. It's all about the premium seating. That's where they're making their most return on investment. That's what they're looking for. How do we make more money? And Joe Bob bringing Timmy to the game's not making them any money. They got to cater to these fat cats and these people that are wanting to spend this big time money to come to the games. But back to your Auburn, I can't ever remember that there wasn't a large contingent of Auburn fans at a game in Tuscaloosa. It was always Kentucky fans and Auburn fans. Now, will there be more this Saturday? Could be. But I got to think Alabama fans are going to come in droves as well, particularly either way. But if they win tonight, Auburn wins tonight, even ramps up the excitement even more. But, yeah, there will be Auburn people there. They always are. More than normal? I don't know.
I think so because, not more than normal Auburn fan. Is this the game where the Auburn student body president has to go to midcourt and sing Rammer Jammer? Is this that game?
Yeah.
That'll jack the price up for some of the Alabama. Maybe some Alabama people will go, even though they don't care a whit about basketball, just to see that.
Yeah.
My buddy Blake says, does anybody care who you think should be at the game? It's always who has the money to buy the tickets. Yeah, I would like to see that. I know people don't care. Well, Barry would like to see, world peace and universal health care or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. But
he wants Ward to take Wally and the Beaver to a game, and June can come along as well.
That's exactly
it's a nice day at the football game at the ballpark.
Yeah, the ice cream's free.
See, nowadays,
the kids
back from the Leave It to Beaver era, now you got Big Boy that won't sit down the whole game, reeking of early times bourbon. His wife's the same way. She might even be worse. It's just different. Language. Dropping 4-letter bombs here and there. That's not the Leave It to Beaver world we grew up in.
That's a shame.
So it'll be, there will be a lot of Auburn people at the game. They're going to find a way to get a ticket. More than anything, they want to be there so if Auburn wins, they can sing Rammer Jammer back to Alabama in their arena and say, we just beat the hell out of you. That's what they really want to spend that money for.
Secondary ticket prices just went up, just as he's saying that. People are like, yeah, all right, okay, I'll pay it. You hear what Longshore just said? Master ticket salesman right there.
Does Auburn get to take their pep band, or do opposing teams take any of the band with them, 10 or 20 band members, or is that not a thing? I don't remember seeing an opposing team's band.
No, of course not. That's not going to happen. But you watch, even if they both lose tonight, and they both could. Number one and number two teams in the country. It's still going to be nuts at Coleman Coliseum.
Barry, the guys on the floor, and they need to be a little bit more into the game. Those floor seat folks, stand up a time or two, clap a little bit.
I'll never forget that game I was watching earlier this year. I wish I could remember now because we commented on it earlier on this show, and now I can't think of who it was. It was Alabama versus somebody, Coleman Coliseum, non-conference. And I want to say it was Diabate dove into the sidelines to save in a loose ball. He didn't save it. I mean, it was out. He was unsuccessful, but he slid in right at the feet of this older guy with, immaculate hair and a gray tweed jacket on. He slid into him. And that guy looked as though he was David Housel stepping out of a bus on Graymont, I mean, he looked like, excuse me, when I bought this tickets, they did not tell me about the possibility of a sweaty man messing up my Cole Haans. He looked at him like, don't do that. What are you doing? What are you to stop? Now I've got perspiration on my trousers, And I'm thinking, I mean, if you were a real fan, you'd be like, yeah, you'd help him up, Sure. There you go. Slap him on the butt. Way to go, man. This guy would look like as though he had just.
You got to know that possibly could be coming. I mean, that's the price you pay for sitting on the floor. You better be paying attention. Don't be yucking it up. I mean, I've said the same thing about standing on the sideline at a college football game. Don't stand down there and carry on a conversation. I've seen way too many people not paying attention, getting cold cocked by some running back running wide, getting tackled, and the pile ends up, on the sidelines, and this guy wasn't paying attention, and he's part of it.
And ain't nobody feeling sorry for him. If it's a big play, you're gonna be immortalized over there. Years from now, Gabby Bell is going to have a bunch of people over there and say, this run right here, this fan got absolutely steamrolled, but it resulted in a Bama first down.
It did. And if you're like Big C in the 78 Sugar Bowl, sometimes you just can't get out of the way, and you're part of the pile anyway.
But he popped right up. Didn't lose either football under his arm. That was true.
He certainly did. That's a great manager in my mind. Yeah. Hey, our man Travis Reier on YouTube Talking Tide, joining us here today as he does each and every Tuesday on our City of Montgomery guest hotline. Hey, Travis, good morning. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing really well. Let's start by just wrapping this up. Were you surprised at all by the tone of the Super Bowl, by how it went? Not necessarily who won, but the way it went?
Oh yeah, I don't see how anyone could not have been. I like the Eagles to win the game, but I thought it would be nip and tuck right to the finish, and it was anything but that. I mean, it's very rare with this current sort of iteration of the Chiefs over the last 7 or 8 years to ever feel like down 10-0 that they were basically done. As long as Patrick Mahomes has been the quarterback of the Chiefs, whenever they've been down 10-0, which I'm going to guess hasn't been often, or even 14-0, I've never felt like, well, this might be a wrap this early in the football game. But as you said, the tone that Philly set, especially on the defensive side of the ball, it just goes to show. I mean, you can have an elite all-time talent at the quarterback position, but if you can't block a little bit, if you can't protect a little bit, it doesn't really matter.
I thought the offensive and defensive lines for Philadelphia were phenomenal. The difference in the game, when Phillies went rushing 4, and they still have no answer. That was impressive.
Yeah, never blitzed really in the game. Never had to. And, there's been a lot of talk about, obviously, the Alabama-Philly connection. And the guy that doesn't get talked about enough, Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I did not even know that, Travis.
Nick Saban went back-to-back on national titles once at Alabama, 2011, 2012. The offensive line coach for Alabama those 2 years,
Jeff Stoutland.
So it's Jeff Stoutland might be, when you just talk about coordinators and position coaches in all of football, not just the National Football League, he might be as good or better at his job than any other assistant coach in the sport right now.
That's one of the reasons why we have had Travis on as frequently as we have. That is that I did not know that. Very good.
Would you I'd heard before the game, Travis, listening to some of these NFL know-it-alls, that they believed, that Kansas City could win it. They're making their predictions, going to be a close game, but thinks Mahomes will pull it out. But I heard several of them say when you put the starting 22 on paper, Philadelphia's got a better starting 22 than Kansas City has. Obviously, that might be the case after we saw it on Sunday evening. But your thoughts about that? Do you think Philadelphia just has better players than Kansas City does?
First of all, Barry, that was a tremendous Johnny Carson. I did not know that.
I did not know that. Yes.
I love that. That needs to stay in the rotation.
I like it.
Wild, wacky stuff.
Yeah.
Weird, wild,
wacky stuff. And then
I'll play the Ed McMahon
role.
role.
Longshorn to do the Ed McMahon. But
I used to have to do that with John whenever he'd put an envelope to his forehead.
We actually had a producer years ago on the radio side that could laugh just like Ed McMahon.
Nice. Where is that guy? I want to put him on my channel with me. I need that. I need the support. No, but to get back to John's point, it felt that way. It kind of felt that way that Philly had the advantage in terms of roster. And, you say that and you look at KC's front defensively, that's not chopped liver, starting with Chris Jones. He might be the best all-around defensive lineman in the league, but you think about Philly in the game defensively and how dominant they were. They were down guys. I mean, they didn't have Nakobe Dean at linebacker. He's out.
Yeah.
He was been injured a couple of 3 weeks earlier, or maybe early in the postseason. So it just speaks to the depth of Philadelphia, and you got to give their personnel people a lot of credit because that's tough to do in this era of the NFL when you're basically dealing with 46 active guys or something like that. And, it felt like Philly had 90 guys, watching the game, and they had half that.
We may have asked you this before. Jalen Hurts is now a Super Bowl championship winning quarterback. I never thought those words would legitimately come out of my mouth, Travis. What's happened with him? Because golly, he was not that guy at Alabama, right?
Well, and a large part he wasn't that guy because he had Tua Tagovailoa come in.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of revisionist history, as you might expect here in the last 48 hours or so. This guy was benched. How is he benched at Alabama? I can go back and show you the first half of the Georgia game in Atlanta, and I can show you exactly why he was benched. And, and to Jalen's credit, as we all know, he handled that like a pro. That should have been as big an indication of what might be to come for Jalen Hurts than anything we had seen him do on the field to that point. The manner in which he handled that and then turned around in the 2018 SEC game and was totally ready for the moment when he was called upon. And look, there's always going to be those yahoos. There were a couple at the time when Jalen announced he was, in fact, going to move on from Alabama. You know, I heard stuff. Oh, he's an FCS quarterback. I mean, just crazy stuff. It was limited to a minority, but no, he made the absolute best move, and I think Nick Saban helped them even with that. If the story is accurate, at least from Nick's perspective, that sounded like Jalen was going to Maryland to join Mike Loxley initially, and Saban said, "And if you're going to go somewhere else, you know, I don't know if Maryland's the place." He goes to Oklahoma, he gets with Lincoln, and he continued to improve. But I also think Philly, kind of like the Ravens, if you're going to make a guy that has that ability, that skill set, like a Lamar and a Jalen, and even the Bills to an extent with Josh Allen, your guy, then you have to build your entire roster around that skill set. And I think Philly did a great job of it. Doesn't hurt when you get Saquon Barkley, but they wanted to become – you look at Jalen and you think, wow, dynamic runner. But really, I think of Jalen as a physical football player. I mean, look at the tush push for more on that.
Yeah.
And they built their identity around a strong, silent type in Jalen. And with that offensive line, Jeff Stoutland and those guys, it's paid off handsomely.
You know, I'll never forget, and they played it over the last couple of days, when Jalen came back, led Alabama to the victory against Georgia in the SEC championship game when Tua got hurt. And in the post game, Nick Saban was just about choked up about Jalen coming back. What he had done, what he'd endured, what he'd been through, and to stay with this team and still be a leader and lead them to victory. You never saw Saban respond out like that until that time.
Well, and you think about how quickly things have changed in this latest era of college athletics. You know, with the portal and the ease of movement and being able to transfer and be immediately eligible, is Jalen even around in 2018? I don't know. Maybe he is. But yeah, I mean, that whole sequence there in 17 and 18 and how Jalen handled that. NFL teams, they do their research. And look, I think Jalen did enough on the field to warrant being picked when he was picked. If not even, he should have been picked higher. But he definitely wasn't going to be picked lower than he was picked based on intangibles, it factor, and character.
All right, Travis. Well, let's get to it because the chat line's buzzing about it. It could happen that Alabama drops one to Texas, Auburn loses tonight to Vanderbilt. But even then, Saturday, as the 1 and 2 teams in college basketball, they've not only has Auburn and Alabama never been 1 and 2 at the same time together in anything, find it hard to believe it's the first 1 versus 2 matchup in SEC basketball history. It's a big one this weekend. Let's just say they get into Saturday unscathed. Put that into perspective for us. How was Alabama at this spot, and how well have they built to continue playing the way they're playing?
Well, the good thing about college basketball rankings, Barry, is that we're guaranteed to get 1 versus 2 no matter what happens tonight. And both could lose tonight on the road. That in this league right now, that would not surprise me at all. But both could lose tonight, and the winner of Saturday still be the number 1 ranked team in the country. That's where the SEC is at in basketball. Look at Auburn. I mean, Auburn lost on its home court pretty convincingly to a very, very good Florida team. And then one of the polls still is number 1. I don't think a lot of people had a big problem with that. But, it's the league is amazing. And tonight is a prime example of that. I mean, you've got 3 games at 6 Central where the home team could clearly knock off, the visiting team that maybe is being looked at as sort of the favorite. Tennessee at Kentucky, Florida at Mississippi State, Auburn goes to Memorial Gymnasium, and then late you got Alabama and Austin. I mean, you would think in a lot of years it would be, well, this is where the ranked road team gets a maybe easy W. Look, The favored teams or the higher ranked teams tonight, they could go 0-4 in these games. So it's going to be amazing regardless Saturday, I'm sure. Game day in town, obviously. And just the way Auburn and Alabama play basketball has me looking forward to it as much as anything. You can have two top-ranked teams, but if it's going to be a damn rock fight, I might, change my brake pads or something instead of watching that. But it has the makings of a game in the 90s and just being an absolute thrilling sort of matchup.
All right, let's look ahead. Let's just assume they both win tonight. Who's the favorite on Saturday, Auburn or Alabama?
I would think Bama, but maybe by a point or two. I mean, it's as much of a toss-up as you can get. So I would think the home team by just a little bit in this situation. But again, you can go down the roster player for player, and with these two coaches with similar resumes at this point, and make a strong case for either team. It's one of the classic. I wouldn't touch it in terms of the spread or the money line, but maybe I'd look at the total. I don't know. It's going to be that kind of game.
Well, everybody talks about Mark Sears a lot. Grant Nelson. Who on the team besides those guys, maybe somebody down the roster a little bit, do you like watching? Or do you think could be has been a real factor and needs to continue to be a real factor?
Well, I think a couple of guys that can be big this week, and certainly against Auburn, that you better have on your team when you're going against a team like Auburn, with the physicality you're going to see and the tenacity that Auburn's going to bring your way, are Chris Youngblood, the transfer they brought in from South Florida. Plus, he can shoot it, and right now he is really shooting it from deep.
Yeah.
And he's a thick, physical type of guy. You can use him at multiple spots on the defensive end. And then Mo Diabate. Mo, again, I thought at the end of the Arkansas game the other night, it wasn't an offensive rebound, but he did enough to kind of keep a play alive that essentially ended the game there late against the Hogs. So, I would point to both those guys. Holloway has been really good too, I think, for this team. Those would probably be, and I think Aiden Sherrill, the freshman big, is coming along nicely at this point. I think you can see his confidence continuing to grow. As a guy that at 6'11" or so he's not afraid to pull it from outside the arc either. So, they've got a couple of three guys I would point to like that. I mean, they're going to have to take care of the basketball this week, though. And they've developed a little bit of, or maybe not even developed. It's been an issue, especially in the first half of games, turning the basketball over. I mean, they can't do that. They can't do it tonight and maybe get out of Austin with a W, but they damn sure can't do it Saturday against that Auburn defense.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. The turnovers definitely been an issue. Nate Oates been talking about it. Got to be able to hold on to the ball. Can't give them free possessions. Switching to football, I think there are reports. We asked you about this. We've talked a lot about it recently, Travis. Ryan Grubb's back in Tuscaloosa. Understand he's breaking down a lot of film of last year, getting ready for this season. Well, everybody's wondering about Nick Sheridan. Reports that Sheridan will be the quarterback's coach from this point forward.
Yeah, the band is back together. It kind of sounds like they're in Tuscaloosa. So, obviously, a lot of the attention is going to be on that quarterback position. So, you've got Grubb coming in, and he's new to the situation. I guess maybe he got a little bit of a look at it before he made the quick jump to the Seahawks last year. He probably has a prior knowledge, at least to an extent, of what he's walking into. But, yeah, with Sheridan there, that'll help, I would think, continuing to be there as far as setting the table for what we all anticipate to be a legitimate battle for that starting position as the successor to Jalen Milroe.
You've mentioned that a couple of times, and I'm with you, Travis. I agree. I was speaking to a group over the weekend and said the same thing. I mean, I think there's this assumption that Ty Simpson's going to step right in But I believe that this spring, this summer, there will be a quarterback battle in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, and I think if you're an Alabama fan, the hope is that's what you hear from Kalen DeBoer publicly, that these guys are competing, and not, Ty is just, he's ready, and he just looks like the guy. And if that's the case, and Ty is to that point in his development, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But you're bringing in the top quarterback prospect for the 2025 cycle in Keelan Russell, and maybe physically he's got some ground to cover, but any scholarship quarterback still in Tuscaloosa should be in that comp. And again, Ty may be at a point in terms of maturity and physical development and things like that where he's just going to be the guy, and if he is, super. But one of the good things about Grubb coming in too is he's going to be wide open to whoever the best guy. You know that, and so that should be the sort of the parameters that we see this thing unfold under.
Should be interesting, and I know we're going to tap into your knowledge and expertise to kind of keep us updated with that, or at least your perceptions of that during spring. Travis Reier on YouTube, what all have you got going on that our consumers can consume?
Yeah, we'll have some SEC talk coming up this week on Reier on YouTube. We had our No Sleep Teal yesterday where we myopically tried to come up with a scenario where the Jags, Barry, can take on that Philly blueprint. The Jags can be Philly, Barry. We kind of tried. Well, we tried to talk ourselves into that as well. But yeah, I know, right?
Liam Cohen has I guess he's finished up his coaching staff, and I feel like the owner of the Cleveland Indians in Major League saying, "Who are these guys?"
Now, wait a minute. Hold on. Tap the brakes just a little bit. Aren't the Saints going to be the next team to be like the Philadelphia Eagles? Aren't they going to hire the Eagles offensive coordinator to follow that blueprint?
Yeah, but it's Kellen Moore. I mean, we'll see what happens. Everybody, I guess the point is now everyone is going to talk about the Philly blueprint, blueprint,
And Travis, before we let you go, I got to admit it. I should have taken your advice. I got some chicken salad with some fruit and nuts in it. I couldn't finish it. It was terrible. It was absolutely horrible.
Longshore.
Oh, it was so bad I threw it away.
I'm going to announce my resignation on this show from for 20 plus years. That's that.
Hey, at least I'm coming clean.
Fun, guys.
I'm not holding it up. I had to come clean. I had to admit it. I couldn't go to sleep
a priest? I mean, you don't have to make those kind of confessions on this show.
Yeah, this is not that kind of a show.
There's a reason why I refer to grapes and chicken salad as landmines. Because whenever I get one, I feel like, my molars are being blown out or something.
Appreciate you, Travis. On that note, thank you very much.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. Travis Reier on YouTube, talking Tide, talking teal. You heard that as well. All right, a lot of good comments coming in on our River Region Straw chat line. You can get in on that. We're going to go over some of those. Our Marguerite's Exquisite Jewelry email inbox, longshoreandmcknight@gmail.com, is hopping as well. And Barry, when we return,
yes,
it's the Daily Phantom selection when we return.
I don't ever want to presume, but it was about that time. Yep. And it's coming up. He's John Longshore. I'm Barry McKnight. In association with Yellowhammer News, it's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Or at least let's hope so.
Well, we're not. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man, I needed to hit the men's room.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to that. I don't know what happened there. Well, before I get to that, we have got Robbie. Whoa, Robbie.
He's
what
up.
is
He's
going
there.
on? Talk to us, Robbie. Man, he is up early.
Yes. Robbie began, when it's coming, it really, you talk about landmines. When it's coming, it blows out. All right. He begins at 8:10 in the morning, and he says, Jeff is clueless. Robbie, that's not like Robbie to say that.
Come on.
Jeff had chatted earlier, way offsides Jeff, a half hour before, has said, can Bama just skip what would be a useless conference tournament if we finish first or second in the SEC? Please? He was just kind of lighthearted, Robbie. He's just, skip there. Of course, you're not going to. Anyway, so Robbie at 8:10 says, Jeff is clueless. Alabama needs to win the SEC tournament to earn the number 1 overall seed for the NCAA tournament. Last year, Connecticut won the Big East tournament on its way to back-to-back national titles. Number 1 overall seed. I don't know that matters, but I get it. He wasn't really asking, Robbie. He's not that literal. He knows that Alabama's got to play in the SEC tournament. He was just making a point. Robbie says, Alabama at Texas tonight. Tide faces the SEC's leading scorer in Trey Johnson, 20 points per game. Contain him. Bama wins, but a dangerous game in Austin.
Okay, Robbie.
And then Robbie goes on to say, not done, SEC projected to have 13 teams in the NCAA tournament. It could have 3 number 1 seeds in Auburn, Alabama, and either Tennessee or Florida. A team like Houston, though, could be an issue if it stays hot in the Big 12.
Well, speaking of Houston, now that you brought it up,
Houston means that I'm one step closer to you.
It is. Last night we had Baylor plus the 9.5 at Houston in the Phantoms daily selection. Houston wins it by 10. Got us by a half a point. Took it on the chin by a half a point last night as the Baylor Bears went down by 10. They were catching 9.5. How do they know? How do they know? So tonight.
Was it anything like a half-court shot or anything like that at the horn?
Probably some free throw that didn't need to be made.
Yeah. Or like I guess it was the Georgia-Kentucky game. Could be wrong. Game was already won. Game was covering. Guy misses a free throw in the final second. And so I think Kentucky covered, but the guy rebounded his own miss. The shooter rebounded his miss, and he laid it in at the horn. And all of a sudden, it didn't cover anymore.
I'll look on SVP tonight and see if it's part of bad beats. Maybe it's part of that tonight. Who knows? Don't know how Houston ended up winning it by 10. Basically, Barry, I really don't want to know. I really don't care. I do not want to see how I got edged out by half a point. Don't want to see it. Just don't even tell me. Don't want to know. I just saw the score, added it up in my head, and went, ooh, half a point. And
it's folks, like that scene with, I think it's Paulie Gatto in Godfather.
Yep.
When Clemenza takes him out, and he and the driver, I think it was Al Neri, they're driving around. They stop at a couple of places, and then they go out to the Meadowlands of New Jersey, and Clemenza says, stop, I've got to relieve myself. And then they shoot Paulie in the back of the head. And who was it? It might have been Sonny. He says, hey, how's Paulie? And Clemenza says, oh, you're not going to see him anymore. You're not going to spend a whole lot of time saying, yeah, he took 2 bullets in the back of the head over there off the causeway. And no, Sonny don't want to know. He don't want to know. All he wants to know is, oh yeah, you ain't going to see him anymore. You ain't going to have to deal with it. That's like the Phantom and the Phantom's picks, Well, see, golly, they came so close, but man, they missed a shot at it. Phantom don't want to see that.
Don't want to hear it.
Or did not they?
Said this many, many years ago. There's no being close. You're either pregnant or you're not. You either win or you lose. None of this. I was close. So what?
Close.
Big deal. Yeah. You can lose by 20 or you can lose by a hook. Last night we got caught by the hook, but it'll come around. Yeah. We'll win by a hook somewhere down the line.
Maybe next time. Happen. Maybe today.
Maybe tonight. Well, you're right, Barry, because the game tonight, there is a hook. There is a half a point involved in this spread. Barry, we're going to go out to Austin, Texas tonight for a game at 8 o'clock on ESPN. Alabama, the number 2 team in the nation, traveling to Texas, where the Longhorns are a 3.5 home underdog.
Yeah,
Now,
3.5.
Yep. If you followed the Phantom for any particular amount of time, the Phantom is partial to underdogs he thinks can win the game outright. I am looking for a game in which I think an underdog's got a good chance to win it, much less cover. And this is a prime opportunity. I think Texas is a team that could win the game outright against Alabama. They're catching 3.5. And Alabama, this is their second straight road game. I was told yesterday they never came back to Tuscaloosa.
Right.
They went straight to Austin. So they've been on the road a while. And don't think for a minute, no, they're not thinking about this game on Saturday. Coaches are telling them not to. But do you think 19, 20-year-old kids are not thinking about what's coming up Saturday at Coleman? You got to factor that in as well. So I'm taking Texas plus the 3.5 at home tonight against the Crimson Tide.
Here's the thing. And I'm here to sometimes the players forget what the coach tells them.
Oh,
you
think?
Coach, I forgot I was supposed to run after that defensive back after he intercepted my pass on the sidelines. That's why I stuck my leg out. Coach, sometimes that happens. I think that's a very strong play from the Phantom, and we're doing that every day. I mean, it's
our daily play.
A daily play.
It's a daily play from the Phantom, and maybe sometimes they're premium, sometimes they're not, but we're not going to rate them that way because it's a daily play, and you do with it what you want. We'll usually get into the premiums when we maybe get into tournament time, if you will. Tournament time, if you will. We'll get into some of that. But, tonight, Bear, I think there's a lot of factors that maybe come in to this. I'm not a big fan of being on the road for an extended period of time.
Hey, I've just got off the road 5 nights. I'm fixing to have to go right back on the road. Yeah,
and I think when you're on the on the road and you've traveled, and I don't know, does this happen a lot in the SEC where teams will go play somebody on the road and not come home?
Yeah, well, it doesn't happen very often. When it does happen, see, the SEC by and large, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. Usually it happens when it does on the Wednesday, Saturday. I'm sorry, on the Saturday, Tuesday, because you don't have class on Sunday and all that. When it does happen, it happens that way. But in this era of charter travel and everything, it wouldn't have been shocking. It would have been pretty standard for Alabama to come back to Tuscaloosa and go to class on Monday, something that John tried to avoid like the plague. But they went ahead and went down there. Maybe if Alabama was 11-17 right now, 2-9 in the SEC, they'd go back and go to class. But they're the number 2 team in the country, and this is really important. Get them to Austin and get them some
I got to
rest.
tell you, that kind of surprised me. Maybe I just haven't thought much about it. Maybe the Saturday, Tuesday thing, if this would have been a Saturday, Wednesday thing, would they have come back to Tuscaloosa? But the Saturday, I just never heard of that. I just, I know some smaller conferences might do stuff like that, but I never thought that an SEC or maybe, I guess the Big Ten teams might do it because if they got to go out to California, I certainly understand that. But
or Rutgers or something.
How far is Fayetteville from Tuscaloosa? I mean, they
border each other. I'm thinking, Fayetteville from Austin's not bad.
Yeah, 40-minute flight, maybe, from Fayetteville to Tuscaloosa. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe it's cheaper to just go out there and stay in a hotel for a couple of days. I just would think the routine but maybe they're getting them accustomed to postseason.
Well, the problem is you run. if they were having to come back from Tuscaloosa, we saw this earlier in the year, John, where if they're flying, say, from Fayetteville to Austin, and they have a fight on the plane before it takes off, you can't just send the guys back to, to their apartments. They got to be there the whole time. So you got to factor that in as well. If they're showing hands in the plane in Fayetteville, you can't just charter a Piper Cub or a Cessna and fly them back to Tuscaloosa. You got to take them, man.
Did I not think of that? I've almost forgotten.
You can't think of everything, John. I mean,
there's
you
so
can't account
many
for everything.
things that have gone on with Auburn athletics over the last 30 plus years that I can recall. Boom, instantly. Boom, Twilita Ramsey, done.
Yeah.
No big deal. Yeah. D.D. Green shooting that gun at the frat party.
Yeah, Lorenzo Diamond's old lady.
Yeah. I mean, boom.
Oh,
did I forget or it just slipped my mind about the plane having to land because the flight crew was a little concerned about a fight at 25,000 feet.
Don't beat yourself up. You can't be expected to remember all of those all the time. Also, this chat from Way Offsides Jeff. Hey, John, Super Bowl ratings all-time high. We're going to address this when we come back. A Super Bowl record, 126 million viewers.
Whoa.
We'll talk about that.
126 million.
Peaked at 136 million. That means one out of every 3 Americans at some point was watching the Super Bowl. What were the other 2/3 doing? Come on.
That is interesting. That's real interesting. We might have a computer lockup at network control. That could be our problem with commercial breaks. So we might have to just roll on, which is certainly not a problem.
This is the ratings that came out, obviously, after they counted everybody. Isn't it funny? I'm just saying, John, isn't it funny that the Super Bowl was played Sunday night, right?
Sunday night, correct.
Sunday. And within 24 hours, this came out last night, we can count 126 million viewers. But something about elections and what was it? California took like 4 days, something like that.
Yep.
How does that handle for them to it was a rout. The peak Super Bowl viewership, 136 million people. That's everything. Fox Deportes, they streamed it on Tubi, Telemundo, it was muy bueno, and the NFL's digital stuff and everything. The average viewership was 126 million, which is a new high ever for the Super Bowl. The highest mark, 136 million in the second quarter when the game was 10-0 at that point, I think. 14.5 million people streamed it. Tubi, which I'm not totally in with, accounted for 13.6 million. They'll break it down even more. They're supposed to release that today.
So, Barry, couple of things. 136 million. The highest college football national championship game, I want to say, is around 25 million.
I'm trying to figure it out. I'm looking at it here.
Those are the kind of numbers that I recall for college football national championship games. And the NFL is, 5 times greater than what a college football title game, the types of ratings that it gets.
The college football national championship game. Notre Dame, national brand.
Yep.
Ohio State, national brand, averaged 22.1 million.
So
the NFL averaged 126.
So I want to, our viewers, listeners, get on the chat line, send us an email, longshoreMcKnight@gmail.com. Why is that the case? We're college football crazy in this part of the country. SEC, everybody loves it. What is it about the NFL that the remainder of the country is all excited about? Well, what makes that sport 5 times more popular than a college game that we love, that we talk about every day? And you watch games in the fall, and there's 100,000 people in Knoxville. There's 100,000 people in Austin. There's about 100 in Athens. There are 90,000 in Auburn and in Tuscaloosa and in Gainesville. What's with the NFL?
Do they market it better? Surely they can't. Not better.
Obviously the production of the Super Bowl is unlike any other sporting event. I mean, the pregame, and not the 5 and 6 hours, but say the 30 minutes before the game.
Yeah.
And the national anthem and God Bless America, and they're recognizing some people, and then everybody wants to watch these commercials, and then who are they going to show in the stands and whatever else is part of the game. Because I'm thinking, Barry, when Philadelphia is going up big, I'm thinking, well, they're not interested anymore. But 136 million is absolutely incredible.
It's hard to imagine. Maybe a couple of things, and we don't normally talk about it. Well, we don't normally talk about this. The NFL is easier to have fantasy leagues in. You don't see many college football fantasy leagues.
And, of course, with
I hope Jeremy Bernard puts up some big-time numbers. Golly, I really need for Jarquez Hunter to have a big day. You don't ever see that.
And that's a good point, Barry. And not to say there's not gambling on college events, because there is.
But it's easier to gamble in the NFL.
But the NFL certainly markets that gambling aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And the different, and they're associated with a lot of reputable gambling services, from FanDuel to BetMGM, things like that. The regulated sites that we'll talk more about in the coming weeks and months. But maybe it is, the gambling, because I've said it even before gambling became okay in the NFL, because they tried to distance themselves from it so much. I've said it forever. Who in the world in Montgomery, Alabama, cares about what is happening in the New York Giant Buffalo game? Who's going to sit there and watch that unless you got a little action on it? Then you might be a little bit more prone to stick around and have some interest in and be rooting for one side over another.
And it's, like I said, I think it's easier to bet, successfully in the NFL. You know who the players are. Every year, things change in college. I mean, change.
Yep.
In college. It's a little bit more difficult, I would imagine, to get information out in college. You've got an 18-year-old kid, and you're going to invest major coin on whether or not this 18-year-old kid can perform in front of 100,000 people when the chips are down, as opposed to the NFL. They're professionals.
Sure.
Whether they're probable, doubtful, or out. You've got loads of coverage on them, so you can probably find out enough information to at least make an educated wager. It's just easier in the NFL to do it, and I think that's one of the reasons why more people are watching it, because more people are betting on it.
I think so. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, how you watch the Super Bowl, that could be different in the future. We'll talk about it when we return.
In association with Yellowhammer News, it's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Joining us now is Marianne from Marguerite's Exquisite Jewelry, and it is Valentine's. Marianne, tell us what's in store when Cupid arrives.
Definitely. Valentine's is now. It's amazing. This year is going by quickly already. But one thing you don't need to forget or let slip by you is the opportunity to show that special person you love exactly what you're thinking of them, that you're thinking about them. And we have lots of great options. For the first time ever, we're going to have price point cases to make it easy shopping for all the guys out there, ladies, anyone. So we're going to have a case for $1.99, $2.99, $3.99. We have lots of great specials, lots of things. If you come in, we even have time for some special customized designs because at Marguerite's we really do make it. So again, don't be last minute. Don't forget about it. This is your cue. All the hearts in the background. Valentine's Day is here and you want to stop at Marguerite's because we'll wrap it up and help you find that perfect gift.
Glad you mentioned the beautiful gift wrap. Just another example of what sets Marguerite's apart from everyone else. And whether it's a ring, a bracelet, a necklace, any jewelry item, and as Marianne mentioned, they have them in different cases at different price points. Or if you have something special in mind, they can certainly handle that as well. Marguerite's is a full-service jeweler. They do it all from sales to repairs to special orders. And you're located there at 8163 Vaughn Road in Peppertree. And Marianne, you're open 7 days a week, so that's very convenient for our viewers and listeners.
Exactly. We're open 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday. We're open from 10 to 5:30 on Monday through Friday, 10 to 5 on Saturday, and noon to 5 on Sunday. So the hardest thing you have to do is open the door, and we'll take it from there.
That's right. Hey, let's have a great Valentine's, folks, and it all starts at Marguerite's Exquisite Jewelry. Marianne, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Dixie Electric Plumbing and Air rallies for you. No matter the problem, Dixie will tackle it. They're licensed and trusted electricians, plumbers, air and garage door technicians are ready to win for you. From toilets to garbage disposals, circuit breakers to HVAC systems, Dixie never fumbles. Don't throw away your hard-earned money on second-string contracting companies. Score big with Dixie. After all, they are your biggest fan. Visit calldixie.com or dial them up locally at 262-2946.
The Destin Connection Seafood Market offers the freshest seafood direct from the Gulf of Mexico with deliveries daily. Snapper, grouper, pompano, flounder, copia, along with medium, large, and jumbo shrimp, hand-picked crab meat, and chucked oysters. They can even cook your order for easy, quick pickup. The Destin Connection can make a po' boy with any of their seafood items that folks in New Orleans rave about. Go by and see them at 3750 Norman Bridge Road or call 288-4272 for pickup orders.
Back again with Longshore and McKnight. Yep. We have a lot of good stuff on the chat line. Ty says he thinks college football isn't as popular in the Northeast where the majority of the population is. And it's really not. I never could figure out why the ACC picked up Syracuse or the Big Ten picked up Rutgers. Oh, we want to be in the Northeast. Why? So you can be ignored there? You know, which would you rather have? No entity in the Northeast that nobody can watch in the Big Ten, or an entity in the Big East in the Northeast and in the Big Ten in the Northeast that nobody's going to watch?
Sure.
You know,
and I
so
think
that's part of it too.
Metropolitan areas, that's the case. I remember being in college when Alabama played Ohio State in the kickoff classic in East Rutherford, New Jersey. We're in Manhattan. Nobody had a clue that game was being played. None at all. I had some friends that went to the Boston College game years ago, and the doorman at the hotel had no clue Alabama was playing BC up there. You go out to L.A., same thing. Heck, you can go to Miami. Most of the people down there don't know what's going on because they just don't follow it, not interested in it. So big metropolitan areas, Chicago, there might be some Notre Dame fans there, but all in all, they really don't. And particularly in the Northeast, from D.C., Philadelphia, New York, Boston, all up and down that area, just college football is not a thing.
John, speaking of not a thing, I'm going to bring this up, and I'm only going to bring this up because later somebody say, hey, you never brought this up. Day after tomorrow are the two duels at Daytona week. The Daytona 500 is coming up on Sunday, 1:30 in the afternoon from Daytona Beach, where I was born. I was born in Daytona Beach, and I used to watch NASCAR all the time. I was born in Daytona Beach in the same hospital where Cole Trickle, the Tom Cruise character, was being treated by Nicole Kidman when he was making the moves on her. Halifax Hospital, Daytona Beach. Daytona 500 Sunday. Just saying. All right, chatters, go crazy. Hey, man, we need to talk about this. I really like whoever. But at least we mention it. Talk about, see, it has gone the way of National Signing Day in February.
Barry, I don't know if a sport that has lost as much interest in terms of conversation. You just don't ever hear any discussion about it anywhere. And I know NASCAR ratings have had some issues locking on and finding a TV partner. I believe there's a lot of NASCAR races that are on like Peacock and FS1 and ESPN2. I mean, just not on the main channel of that television network.
Yeah.
And that has been a problem. And back in the Earnhardt days and, you know, Rusty Wallace and some of those guys, there was conversation about it. I can remember talking about it on this program. We would talk NASCAR, but none anymore. It's interesting how NASCAR television ratings, conversation, and interests. I mean, Barry, even at Talladega, those seats that were on the back stretch, not there anymore.
What?
Took them out years ago.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean it's I think they need a star.
Okay. All right.
I think the death of Dale Earnhardt hurt NASCAR more than people ever imagined.
I remember the days. Oh my gosh, David Pearson, Richard Petty, Cale Yarbrough, Bobby, and
yeah, I got to tell you that, and we've talked about it before. Some sports just don't translate well to television. NASCAR, in my mind, is one of them. I mean, being at the race is one thing. You can hear the roar of the engine. You can feel the speed as they're zipping by you at 200 miles an hour, and there's 40-something cars, in part one another. You can't get that feel on TV.
You can't, because it looks like, in relation to everybody else, you're just, heading down the Eastern Boulevard, passing by Stivers, It just looks like they're going 55 and, guile past each other. Now, when they rub each other and somebody spins out, then you're like, whoa. But as they're driving, basically you are watching a car. You're watching the car. It doesn't look like it's going that fast. Hey, look at that car. It's right behind this car and right ahead of that car. I hope that car that's behind him doesn't get ahead of him for 500 miles.
Yeah.
Baseball's another one that translates better on television, but it doesn't translate perfectly
now
like football does.
And I've said this many a time.
Hockey is one.
I've been to Talladega, Daytona, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Vegas. Those are the 5 NASCAR tracks that I've been to. To me, the most entertaining is Charlotte because you can see the whole track.
Yeah, right.
Daytona and Talladega are so big, it's kind of hard to see what's going on in turn 3 if you're sitting at the start-finish line. Vegas was kind of cool, but I had my mind on something else instead of watching cars go in a circle when I was out there.
Like how in the world am I going to get home? Ugh.
Yeah. Can we get back to the tables?
Yeah.
I mean, let's go. But the thing about Talladega, for instance, and I've said this forever, the first 10 laps and the last 10 laps are really pretty cool. It's those 150 in the middle that you're kind of going, woo, we got to get something going here. And I've also said, if you couldn't bring your own liquor and beer to the track, when as many people show up, just something to think about.
My dad used to take me every once in a while to the dirt track races in Central Florida. I've been inside Daytona International Speedway. I've watched a race there. I'm from there, but I've been outside Talladega. I've been outside Darlington. The one actually in North Wilkesboro, which I don't even think is, I'm not sure it's there anymore. I've been by that one and everything, but yeah, gosh, I want to.
Well,
and we've had NASCAR drivers. John and I have interviewed NASCAR drivers. We interviewed Jimmy Johnson from El Cajon.
That's right, exactly right. Yeah,
John, that was like interviewing Wonder Bread. Great guy, super nice guy, salt of the earth, and a decent interview. He wasn't rude to us. We enjoyed our visit. But there's no color there. Back in the day when it got started, oh my gosh, Cale Yarbrough.
Oh yeah, totally.
Petty, all those guys.
And they've done a great job marketing it.
Personality.
And not only marketing it, but they're very, very keen on driver interaction and appreciation of the fans. They get it. Of any sport, they realize their fan base is huge. And in terms of making them successful, making that sport successful, you got to make those fans feel like they're part of that race team or that driver. And they do a great job of getting close to the fans and communicating with them better than any other sport. But translating it to TV, not that great. I mean, a week or so ago, I admitted I watched about 10 minutes of an NBA game, really more for research than anything else. I wanted to see how long it went before the first foul was called, which was about 6-7 minutes into the game before the whistle blew, which really I didn't have a problem with, and I didn't notice anything that needed to be called prior to that. But to me, the NBA doesn't translate well to TV. At a game, it's totally different. It's pretty cool at the game. And I think baseball's the same way. I mean, if you're at the ballpark, it's a little bit different. You're feeling and smelling and seeing and hearing all the things that make baseball being there great. You don't get that on television. And it just, I'll tell you a sport that to me is better on television than it is in real life is golf, because it's too hard to get around. And if you want to, I'm not staying at one hole for 4 hours to watch a particular group. And if you want to follow a group, it can be a little, you're moving around and you're kind of getting blocked. Look, you're going to get everything you need to see watching the guys do the broadcast on television.
One of the great chat names that we've had so far, Shotzi McDuffie, talking about the NASCAR thing. And I agree with this. He says NASCAR is not as good as it once was. 20 years ago at Dega, both races. 11 years, Bristol, both. Charlotte, Atlanta, Daytona. Just stopped going. Just stopped watching. Didn't enjoy the changes. I remember as a kid, you had North Wilkesboro, you had Darlington, you had Concord, you had Bristol, you had some of those smaller tracks where, they weren't the super speedway where basically, you're just going, had some rubbing, you had some passing. There was a lot of, traffic and pileups and stuff like that. Then it started going corporate, and the rank and file people, the ones who going to, crack open a couple of Bud Lights and a few pork rinds, sweet heats, and enjoy it. All of a sudden, it wasn't as fun as heading to North Wilkesboro and watching.
Totally agree.
David Pearson or
Dale you're Yarbrough. Right. It got too corporate and it got too big market. Yeah. They're going outside of Chicago. They're outside of Kansas City. They're in Vegas. I mean, they started going to some bigger markets, and it really kind of ate up the North Wilkesboros and some of these smaller tracks that had been a part of the NASCAR rotation for so many years.
They got, at Bristol, they had Virginia Tech versus Tennessee football. That's the only time I've seen anything from Bristol. And that used to have those night races there. Don't even know if they even do that anymore.
Yeah, it's a totally different game. Hey, tomorrow, CJ Duncan from Yellowhammer News will join us here on the program. We'll get his thoughts about the Super Bowl from Sunday. Also, maybe a little basketball action since his Vanderbilt Commodores are hosting Auburn tonight in Nashville. Is that a watch out game? Is that a trap for Auburn? I think Alabama's
Both
game
of
in
them are.
Austin could be a little trap game tonight as well. So we'll certainly get his thoughts about that and everything else going on in the world of sports tomorrow on the program.
Yep, looking forward to all of that tomorrow. I'll be in Lafayette, Louisiana, joining the show. Thanks to Bryan Matthews, AuburnSports.com, Travis Reier on YouTube, Gurn Jr., our fabled producer, and for John Longshore. I'm Barry McKnight. In association with Yellowhammer News, it's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.